Welcome back. As always, it is your friend Arachnid Soul coming to you today with something a little bit different. But before we talk about AEW Rampage, before we talk about CM Punk, before we talk about what I thought of the entire event, do me a favor, smash that thumbs up, give me a like, and subscribe if you have not. Let's get into it. It was AEW Rampage. It's their second TV show. It's on Friday nights. I also mentioned I stopped watching AEW because I attended an AEW pay-per-view and it was so silly and goofy and who knows what the hell was going on that I said, okay, I'm going to give it one more shot next month. So next month, I ordered the pay-per-view. The first month, I literally went to the pay-per-view. I bought a ticket. I was in the building. Month number 2, I tuned in, could not even make it out of the pre-show. They had some guy who wasn't even a wrestler. He's kicking off the pre-show with a hardcore match, and I made it 2 minutes in. I said, I can't even do that. But let's talk about it. It was AEW Rampage. I tuned in. I said, I'm going to have an open heart. I'm going to have an open mind. The show starts. I'm watching. I'm excited that this event is on. Straight away, the crowd is chanting CM Punk. It's a packed crowd. They're in Chicago, CM Punk's hometown. CM Punk was a massive star in Ring of Honor before going to WWE 20 years ago. He was also in NWA TNA, Impact Wrestling back in the Asylum years, and he was good everywhere he went. And the crowd's chanting CM Punk, CM Punk. And just the way I figured, Tony Khan opened his wallet, got Cult of Personality, that CM Punk theme that he had in WWE. It's not a WWE theme, it's just a regular song, but he used it over there. And the place explodes. I don't know how the roof stayed on the building. CM Punk walks out. You can feel it's not even electricity. It's love between the fans and CM Punk. You can feel it. CM Punk could have talked half this crowd into walking off the fucking building. CM Punk comes out, he kneels at the top of the entrance ramp, and he's just taking it in. And you know, sometimes wrestlers come out, or people come out in general, we've seen it at political rallies too, and they think there's going to be all sorts of fanfare and pomp and circumstance, and they get out there and the crowd is dead. This was not the case. This was CM Punk. He knew what he was doing. He knew the crowd is loving this. It reminds me of when Bret Hart went out, slightly different way, but after Owen Hart passed away and Bret Hart went out on Nitro to do an interview, and the first thing he said was, you know, WCW management has told me I can take as much time as I need. But CM Punk, you could see it. You could see that he knew that. CM Punk gets in the ring. The crowd is still going nuts. Let me congratulate the announce team for doing what they should have done here. They laid out. They didn't say anything. You heard Jim Ross saying the right stuff at the right time. He said the right amount. Jim Ross was on point. Apparently, they've got some guy over there under a mask called Excalibur, who I kind of sort of remember from 15, 20 years ago on the good indie scene, Ring of Honor and Chikara and all that stuff. He is horrible, and he speaks super fast as CM Punk is about to come out when they open this show. And I know people are going to say, well, he wanted to just get to CM Punk. The people were there. Anybody tuning in who knew about CM Punk was going to wait another 15 seconds for this guy to speak at regular speed. Punk comes out, gets in the ring, does a great promo. Does one of the better interviews I've seen in pro wrestling in the past 15 years. He's so good on the mic because he knows what he's supposed to be doing. He has a point. He's a wrestler. He's making the point, and then he's gonna wrestle. CM Punk starts to talk about when he was in WWE. And the people, they don't like WWE. Those people in the AEW crowd, even though they're still either watching Raw, SmackDown, or the pay-per-views, and they're paying Vince McMahon for the Peacock Network, they will be the first ones to tell you they do not like or support WWE. They also buy the video game. You know what really pissed them off? You know what really got under the skin of these AEW fans? When CM Punk had the audacity, the gall, the temerity to mention Ring of Honor. At which point the AEW fans, many of whom belong to the Bullet Club bubble, started booing Ring of Honor. And you could tell there were certain people in the crowd confused by that, but I think the reason is Ring of Honor is pro wrestling. Ring of Honor is some of the best pro wrestling, them and MLW, that you're going to find in any major organization in the United States in 2020 or 2021. And a lot of these fans don't like wrestling. They like people who come out and are just there for them, as opposed to people coming out and being there for themselves and people enjoying that and deciding to watch it. Why AEW did not promote CM Punk being on this event is beyond me. Again, like I said in the last video, think back to when TNA Impact Wrestling signed Sting. They could not shut up about it, and rightfully so, because he wasn't a mid-card guy, he's a main eventer. The whole point of bringing him in on this night is we want to do the best pay-per-view buy or the best TV ratings we can, and we need to advertise first. The good news for AEW is next week their ratings are going to be through the roof, because TV ratings are not based on what we did this week, because people don't know everything we're doing this week. It's based on what we did last week, and if people liked it, a higher amount of them will come back. You could have also had more people watch if you just would have announced CM Punk. And people are going to say, well, Tony Khan wanted it to be a surprise. That's lovely. I'll tell you who didn't want it to be a surprise: the network. And I suspect that we will hear stories coming out at some point. Tony Khan wanted to do it this way. The network thought it's stupid for you and us to be spending this much money on the biggest star free agent in professional wrestling, and you don't even promote him. We could have run commercials. We could have been talking about it on TBS, on TNT. But anyway, I have no idea why they didn't promote CM Punk. CM Punk does a great interview, and he looks up at Darby Allin, who, when I went to that AEW pay-per-view, is one of the more talented people there. I'm like, this kid's pretty good. I also thought, this kid's going to break his neck. This kid's going to have to change his style up, and it's not going to be when he's 54. It's probably going to be in the next 5 or 6 years. And for his sake, I wish he would do less. The kid is killing himself. He's like a young Mick Foley. Do less, kid. Stay in the ring. Wrestle. The crowd loves you. Do crazy shit once in a while, but usually not. And that way, when you do it, it's special as opposed to you doing it and it being expected. And CM Punk looks up at Darby Allin, and CM Punk is so good. I hope the other people in this company learned from Punk. He looks up, and he looks up at Darby Allin and Sting, and they're up in the rafters. Old WCW style. Like the AEW fans always say, man, AEW feels like the new WCW. AEW, and I can tell you right now, feels nothing like WCW. I mean, there are hints of the later stages of WCW, but it feels like a different promotion that, like I've said many times, has the entrance stage with the tunnels that TNA had in 2011, with the lasers, with the lights. The stage is the same way. I think they probably literally did just get that stage. They need to get rid of Excalibur. He's not good. I don't know who he's friends with, but I would do a better job. If they just called me tomorrow, I would show up in AEW, and I would sit there next to Taz, and I would sit there next to Jim Ross, and I would say, you know what? I'm a pretty good commentator, but you don't need me in the booth. Just you, Taz. Just you, James. You guys call it. If they asked me, I would get out there. You hear that opening? But anyway, CM Punk calls out Darby Allin for the next pay-per-view, whenever that is in AEW. A match so big that could main event the pay-per-view. To be honest with you, I think whoever the world champion is, I think it's Kenny Omaha, can sit out the next pay-per-view or have a non-title match. No, they're going to try to double main event it. All right. Instead of having 2 different pay-per-views where you've got those main events, they're going to cram it onto one. I'm excited for that match. Am I going to watch that match? No, but I'm excited for AEW. I'm excited for pro wrestling because I think the fans are going to get a pro wrestling match. I think that CM Punk is going to try to have CM Punk's match because that's what the people want to see. And I think Darby Allin is just going to be forced into it because I don't think Darby Allin's style is strong enough that he's going to impose his will on CM Punk the way that CM Punk and the fans will want CM Punk to impose their will on Darby Allin, who the fans also love. And Sting was standing next to Darby Allin, and Sting is the smartest man in professional wrestling. Because he's still a semi-active pro wrestler, and I think there's probably not a semi-active or active pro wrestler in the world who's making as much money as Sting is and is doing less in the ring. And I don't mean that as an insult. I'm very happy. If anything, that's an insult to management, not to Sting. Sting's brilliant. Take the money. Taz is brilliant. Mark Henry, The Big Show. They're going to sign everyone WWE releases. So those are basically my thoughts on CM Punk. He did everything extremely well. Promoting the pay-per-view, promoting himself, crapping on WWE, which the people love that. When it was TNA doing it, they were like, oh, TNA is horrible. We love WWE. WWE for life. I have loyalty to WWE. When it was TNA running opposition. Now that it's AEW, all of a sudden, oh, WWE sucks and this and that. Okay. We see you. CM Punk doing a better job of promoting the pay-per-view than Excalibur was. Apparently, Excalibur has 17,000 AEW dates, and there's so many dates on screen. It's like, if you want to go to AEW, save yourself time. Just go to the website, look at the dates. CM Punk is going to be a game changer for AEW. So I will say more later about CM Punk. I'm not a guy that likes AEW, but I don't bash it when it doesn't deserve to be bashed. And the whole thing with Punk, I cannot imagine any company would have done that any better. Aside from promoting that Punk was going to be there and also putting him on later. I mean, they could have teased, listen, at the top of the hour and just really teased it if they weren't going to promote him. And if they were going to promote him the way TNA did with Sting or Hogan, that would have made him the most money. But this AEW. As I said before, I think Taz is great on commentary. Him and Mike Tenay, probably the most underrated announce team of the past 20 years. Mike Tenay, certainly the best announcer of the past 20 years, who has been overlooked and for some reason does not get mentioned. WWE's basically giving him the treatment they gave Bobby Eaton before he passed away. Let's just ignore him and not put him in the Hall of Fame where he deserves to go. As always, it has been your host, your friend, your buddy, your pal, your mate, Arachnid Soul, and I will catch you next time, my friend. Like, comment, subscribe. Later.